welcome, Ryan Stock. What's up, man? How are you doing?
Glad to be here. I'm well. Yeah, things
That's
are good.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, I know you're the first guest, so you're in our 3.5 million. Was it about 3.5, 3.6? 4.7 million dollar studio we got set up here. This is not a basement. You do not hear sound. You know what's been amazing though is that you actually can't hear most of this stuff on the stuff. We had a heater blowing. You're not cold, by the way, are you?
No, I took my jacket off. I'm good.
Look at this guy. That's absolutely unbelievable. Well, listen, we've known each other now over a year. Have we known each other that long?
Yeah, so I checked. We had a debate about this when you did yoga with me and Sue last time. That was May 25th. And we started conversations 6 months before that. So it's been, just about a year.
That's insane. So we know each other through Wes Bergman, who would actually be a great person to get on here.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I don't know if he's in town and stuff like that, but so meditation has been a huge part of my life. Obviously, it's something that I talk about a lot on the channel, on the YouTube channel. But is the thing with meditation is that you have to blend it in a way that the kids actually want to hear it, want to know about it, understand what it can do for them.
Yeah.
And so obviously when I heard about what you were doing in the app and all that stuff, and then the book, which we actually have to talk about, the Whistleblower. We literally, because this is one of the things that Brandon, for those of you guys who are not, who are just listening to this, is sitting right here. We are obsessed with the
producer,
the artwork. Our podcast producer today is Brandon Milburn, Professor B. Millie. You guys all know him. But obviously the book it's awesome. It's perfect because this is one of the things that people just constantly come to us is what do I do? I'm nervous before a game.
Right.
What do we do? I always mess up. I'm good in practice, but I'm shitty in games.
Yeah. How do I get confident?
How do I do this? And you have stuff in here that's gonna help them for that. So I don't know, when did this start? Why don't you take us back? Give us the Ryan Stock.
Yeah.
How'd you get into this?
So, I was a college basketball athlete, Division II player, experienced a ton of success individually, top 5 still in my school's history, assists, steals, all that stuff for a point guard. So had a great...
You're a point guard? You're huge.
Yeah, 6'3".
Wow, I thought I was a point guard.
A couple triple doubles, pat myself on the back.
Okay.
Got right into coaching immediately. Coached for 12 years. But then I had this revelatory moment, where I was... I'm divorced now, but my wife at the time, her and I found out we were having our first child. We won the game I was coaching that day against a tough conference opponent by double digits, and it was my 34th birthday. So all 3 positive, life-changing things. But I went home that night, and I was still drinking by myself in the kitchen, just frustrated as hell. And I had no idea why. But especially now that I knew I was going to become a father, I was like, man, I've got to figure out better tools to deal with all this.
Yeah.
So I went in, and literally the next day after we just won, I went in and told the coach I was resigning at the end of the season.
Just like that.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Wow.
But went in on a Sunday and said, hey, I'm done. I didn't know where I was going to go, where it would take me. So I got into what's known as DISC behavior assessments. So those help, in this case, athletes. I was taught by a 4-time Olympian, 3-time bronze medalist.
In what sport?
He was a rower out of Australia.
Those guys are ridiculous. Wait, so rowing, we're talking about the guys that go 1, 2.
Yeah.
That shit's impossible.
Yeah, so he was also like the captain of his row team. So he's a very good leader.
Yeah.
And I'm butchering all the titles for that sport, but you get the gist of it.
Yeah.
So he trained me in DISC behavior assessment. So that essentially teaches you how to learn to communicate more effectively, how we're all motivated differently. That's another common misconception is everyone thinks, oh, you just want to be the best or you just want to win. Well, that's not reality. Some people want to play for their mother. Some people want to play for a sibling that's unable to play sports. Some people want to make their peers happy. There's all kinds of motivators in the world. So I started with that. Around that time, my dad actually introduced me to meditation here in Kansas City. There's this place called Temple Buddhist Center that has some meditative services.
There's a place called Temple Buddhist Center in Kansas City that I've never heard of.
The Plaza.
I would imagine it would be on the Plaza.
It was across from where Tom Fuller's used to be. No one will know that except
That's
for us.
the woke area of Kansas City.
It's phenomenal. Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's phenomenal. They have services Sunday, just like a normal church would, 9 and then 10:30. But during that service, they have a Dharma talk. So that's essentially like a teaching point, and then they have a 15-minute meditation.
Right.
And then they do some other things. So that was my first experience with the meditation world.
What did you think then the first time you got out of meditation? Were you like, this is ridiculous? Did you know anything? And did your dad have some sort of meditation background, or was he just like, my son looks like a disaster?
No, right. Yeah, my son's a train wreck. Let's get him some help.
Get him in here.
No, he actually, so I've always been kind of chill. Like meditation came natural to me because I always played really hard, but I was never like one of those real emotional guys, like a Draymond Green or somebody that was like cussing people out.
Yeah.
I was more like, I'm not as good as Steph Curry, but you know how Steph's just kind of like chill on the court?
I am, but
yeah. I was more of that demeanor, would be a better way of putting it.
Really?
So meditation came pretty naturally to me, to where sitting and controlling the monkey mind and all that was never really a challenge for me. It's a challenge for everyone all the time, but for me, it wasn't as intense as most people experience. Meditation came pretty naturally to me. So when I went that time, it was a 15-minute sit, and I'd never sat before.
Right.
And that's a long time for your first sit.
Yeah.
Most people 2 or 3 minutes, and their mind starts jumping everywhere. So yeah, I left that day, and I was pretty much hooked.
Okay.
And then about a year later, I started that yoga teacher training.
Okay.
Started the app around that same time. So all these things,
they kind of
just interwove
led you down that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. You
very
had
organic.
a much different introduction and in a way that, so my mom was a huge meditator, huge.
Yeah.
And so I can remember being a kid walking upstairs to go to bed or to do whatever. She would be before bed, she would be sitting down to meditate, and she would say, you want to join me?
You said like 9 or 10, right? Pretty early on, or maybe even earlier than that.
I always remember this. It's just when I kind of got older, I kind of, you as you get older, you cognitively notice she's doing this thing, and she would always ask, do I want to do it? And I'd be like, I don't want to do this. Come on now. That's ridiculous.
Right.
And then she would always be like, you don't know what you're missing out on.
Yeah.
And so I honestly don't remember, but by the time that I was getting ready to take it serious, I was already in Europe. So I had tried it every once in a while when I was 20, stuff like this over here when I was still, and then I moved to Europe when I was 23 to Denmark. But by the time I moved to Croatia, I was probably 25. And I'd been reading some books. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot, but like I finally sat down and I had a session where the book was just explaining, obviously, to just follow your breath.
Yeah.
Whenever you gets off, go back. And one of the coolest things about it was, because everyone does feel like they're messing up when they're meditating.
Right.
There's all these different ways and methods and all that stuff. The thing that resonated the most with me was when you're frustrated in a meditation, or when you're sitting to do your practice, and you actually realize that you've been thinking about soccer for the last 15 minutes, that's a moment of success for you. You've realized that you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You should count that as a victory. Yeah. Most people immediately go, oh shit.
Yeah, right.
Like, I've been thinking about cake and girls and whatever,
work. Yeah.
So anyway,
you're right. That's the first sign of success, is when you have that pause and you're like, oh shit, my mind wandered.
Right.
Then like you're successfully meditating at that point.
Exactly. That's when
it wandered. You catch it. Return to the breath.
Exactly. That's Will you throw up benefits of meditation right now? Because that was the other thing that got me into it. Because I was just kind of like, all right, I thought it was cool. That night, when I did it well, and I kind of realized I slept.
You said you slept like crazy.
Like amazing. It was amazing. It was like another world thing. And I was all rested, and I didn't understand. I didn't make the correlation here.
Yeah.
All right. So, and this is the weird thing about meditation, because if you would read this, you would just assume that everyone would want to just do it. Like we should all just do it.
You'd be like, everyone should do that.
And I knew that. And I would always reread the benefits to kind of just remind myself of what it was that I was also trying to do.
Right.
So, obviously, it reduces stress, controls anxiety, keeps scrolling down, emotional health, and that's the huge one.
This was a cool one, like EQ. And it took me a while to realize this. I think we've talked about this before, but imagine how often during your day as a meditator, when you walk into like a Chipotle or something, which we both love.
Oh, yes. Shout out to Chipotle.
Maybe sponsor you guys.
Yeah, come
on. And you'll see someone that's just stressed the hell out. But because you're like more in tune, more self-aware, you can take that like sacred pause almost and be like,
chill.
Chill.
Yeah.
And because we actually can do that with our teammates and coaches, well, we can sense that when you meditate heavily and you can take that pause and you can be like, hey, you know, what's up? Or like, how can I help?
So what's your meditation practice now? What does it look like? Do you follow any sort of...
Yeah, so generally in the mornings, especially, I'll try and do at least a 10 or 15 minute set, hopefully 30 minutes. That doesn't always happen, especially I have a 3-year-old son, as I mentioned.
Right.
So when I have him about half the time. When I have him, morning meditations get a little tricky.
Yeah.
Especially if he wakes up.
You got to trick him into meditating with you. This is a fun game.
I've got him to where he'll sit and do breathing.
That's cool.
He doesn't know the meditative stance yet. But, cool to just see him breathe. And then I do yoga at least 4 times a week, which, as you know, and as we went to, at the end of yoga, you do at least a 10-minute, what they call shavasana or corpse pose, where you're essentially meditating in a laying down state. But then the biggest thing, and this is one of the things I've learned, which is the beauty of meditation, is when I went on that 7-day meditation retreat, I think I've told you about.
Yeah, you did. But where
it was in San Diego, Escondido. It was actually a monastery. A guy named Thich Nhat Hanh, who's one of the, probably besides the Dalai Lama, I would say he's like second in command.
Is he a Tibetan monk?
Yeah.
He's a Tibetan monk.
Yeah.
Living in San Diego.
So he has monasteries all across the world. And this is one of them in Escondido.
What's his name again?
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Thich Nhat Hanh. Yeah. I've never heard of him. Okay. That's awesome though.
And he's in his upper 80s, maybe even 90s now. But an amazing leader. So I went to one of his monasteries for a 7-day meditation retreat and just dove right in. And so I'll break away from the story for a second. I was walking into this meditation. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, wow.
Zen master.
He's a Zen master. Yeah, he's legit, obviously, if he's a Zen master.
1926. What's the math on that?
He was born in he's 93.
Okay. Look at you.
Oh, it's right there. Don't worry.
Okay.
I can see it. Yeah.
I thought you did that.
I'm a math genius. I actually didn't realize I was a math genius till I got out of school, but I don't want to derail your story here.
So, and I have no knock on my child's mother or anything like that, but she'd asked me to wait to file for divorce until I was done with this retreat. And I was walking in this 7-day retreat, and she called and was like, "Hey, I filed, and like you only get our son like once a week," and I couldn't do anything about it until I got back. Yeah, so I was walking into this 7-day meditation.
Imagine
retreat.
that you needed a knock like that.
So I was like, man, if you ever want to learn how to practice, get that call right before you walk in. But the reason I bring all it up was the beauty of this retreat was they say that you can meditate when you're in the shower and you like feel the water on your body, feel the warmth and the cold. When you eat, you should be meditating. Like you can't talk when you eat in this place, so you don't have to. You get to.
Was it a silent retreat?
Well, it was silent for about. You could talk. Like I had a roommate. Okay. So I could talk for a couple hours a day, but we meditated for about 8 hours a day. Wow. And then the meals.
Literal sitting meditation for those 8 hours?
So yeah, you woke up at 5 a.m., 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. was a sit. 7 a.m. you ate, but you couldn't talk during your meal. Usually around 9:30, you either did a walking meditation, which again, you didn't talk, or you did a working meditation, which this kind of translates to sports where, not to get too deep, but like when you're in the unconscious, when you're in the zone, when you're in the flow state, that's a form of meditation, right? When you're 100%. When you're playing out of your mind, that's because you're no longer thinking, you're just totally present.
So
and so I learned all these things from eating to showering to even when you go to the bathroom, they're like, man, you can like do that as a meditation. Like you can be present with everything you do throughout the day. So that's a long-winded answer to your question that you ask how often I meditate. As far as like an actual sitting, like dedicated practice, that's probably 30 minutes to an hour every day. But what I've learned is much more impactful for me is figure out how you can meditate in every single thing you do, every conversation you have,
that's probably the biggest takeaway, and I think that's what people like a Zen master and them that are trying to get across to the rest of society is that clearly they know the game here. They want to if we can get these people to sit down to meditate, hopefully it will carry on to your life and even like. And for some people, obviously, it even carries on into sleep. And, lucid dreaming is a very cool thing that I've experimented with, and it's
form of the unconscious mind. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's just totally a crazy thing. And now I just lost the train of thought of where I was going with that. What were we talking about before that? I didn't
being able to meditate with everything you do throughout your entire day.
Oh, actually, no. You know what we were talking about? I was asking you how long you meditate.
Oh yeah.
So I was actually going to respond on mine. Have you heard of? Do you know who Robert Monroe is?
I do not.
Ooh, throw that shit. Throw Robert Monroe up there. Okay, so Robert Monroe was I believe he wasn't a journalist. He was a studio producer, very successful businessman. He died in the late 90s, I think. But it's Robert Monroe. Yeah.
Dang.
That is not him. Is that him? Yeah, it's Bob Monroe, Robert Monroe. So he died in 95. This guy, obviously, he had these experiences that everybody knows as out-of-body experiences or astral projection, as it's called. But he was a very, very measured guy. He has 3 books, all of which are incredible. But the thing that I'm getting to here is that he created this thing called HemiSync right there. So HemiSync is this program. It may use binaural beats, isochronic time. I can't remember. I don't know, but he has this Monroe Institute. It's really interesting. But this program, so the HemiSync program is essentially, click on HemiSync, B. Yeah, so that's him. And so he write these books about these crazy experiences that he didn't know anything about meditation.
What is a HemiSync? Can you explain it?
I'll explain it. What I wanted to tell you, what happened to him and how he got there is just because he was in his mid-40s and he just had some crazy stomach ache one day.
Yeah.
And he thought he had no idea what was going on.
There you go.
And eventually it led to him having these out-of-body experiences, and he thought he was going crazy.
Right.
He's a very materialistic dude. He started asking all his friends who were psychologists, and they started they told him, you're not crazy. Like, there's nothing wrong. He thought he had a brain tumor.
Wow.
None of that. So he ended up over the rest of his life documenting all of his out-of-body experiences.
Yeah.
And he created this thing called HemiSync, which is actually it's hemi. So hemi meaning hemisphere and synchronization. So synchronizing both parts of the brain. Yeah. And so the technology behind it is essentially getting your brain to focus in a way.
Right.
What's really interesting is that the government actually, this was in declassified documents now. They were sending people there.
Yeah.
And he was teaching them how to do this. Essentially, either learn how to get out of the body, learn how to focus better.
Yeah. All
these benefits, the same ones for meditation. So over the course of now, I'd say 10 years, I will go back and forth between using them with, with my meditation and stuff like that. But my normal meditation practice, at the moment, I guess it's best to... I do a form of breath work, so I do pranayama right now. I can't remember the name of, how they have all these special names for pranayama.
Yeah, that one guy from Iceland or whatever, he's got like...
Wim Hof, that guy? He's from Holland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's got an intense I've done his... Have you done it before?
Yeah, it's... I went on a retreat to Hungary, retreat this summer.
Did you go to his?
No, but there was a guy that very much studies his breathing, and it almost feels like you're on drugs.
Yeah.
When you do that intense.
Did you do the cold stuff too?
No, but he would do like the super powerful, like, aggressive. Yeah. And when you do that, we would do it, 30-minute waves. And when you do it that long, like, you'll feel like your body's floating.
Oh yeah. No, it's insane.
Pretty heavy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's Wim. Yeah. I've done his stuff, and I take cold showers and ice baths.
I do that. I've never dove into that realm.
No.
Yeah, I do the cold shower every once in a while.
Okay.
Especially in the morning. That'll snap you out of it.
I love it. I love it, man. So I will either, we're about the same. I do about 10 to 15 minutes of pranayama, so some sort of breath work, given that I'm trying to obviously improve my lung capacity and my, it's for soccer.
Right.
Also.
Selfishly.
Also. But the meditation part.
Intelligently.
And then I'll meditate for about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's about 40 minutes, and that's every morning. And then before bed, I have a whole different other thing, which is a whole nother story. But, I wanted to ask also, so given the app, we should probably explain the app.
Okay.
People who don't know Mind Sport, you want to go ahead and tell them what they can find or what kind of...
I think we should probably even dive into, and I don't know how to announce this on the platform, whether we should make it separate or not, but even what we've got partnership-wise as far as being able to offer your users, your subscribers.
We'll be able to throw some of that stuff up because we can do that in post. We'll throw some stuff up because obviously we've done some sessions and stuff, and we have so much more planned. We're gonna have to talk about how much more, but there's the app. Obviously, it's really, it's dope. It's all, and I mentioned this. We put it on one of our videos without even telling you because
you, by the way.
no worries. But that's the thing is that I constantly want to remind people of the benefits of this, and this is something that it is probably if not our number one question. I don't know what else is how to become a pro, or it may be more important is I'm freaking out before the game, or I'm not getting the best out of
by myself, but once I
I have confidence.
Exactly.
All that stuff's mental.
It is. And that's the basis I'm trying to get, because that's one of the struggles that we have on the channel is everybody wants to do the new Ronaldo move or the Mbappe new thing. I mean, Mbappe is faster than God at this. We can't teach you that. Right. You're not going to learn that. But the foundation is what matters. We want them to be learning their technique. Right. We want to be learning how to dribble and juggle well. But this is behind all of that. This is the start of even moving, living.
Right.
So, it's...
Well, imagine, and here's the thing that I always tell the athletes I communicate with. So when they download the app, they can actually chat with me directly. So the message system within our app actually goes to my cell phone. So if someone ever wants to message me,
they can do that.
That'll go directly to my phone,
awesome.
And I'll get back to them. But there's 3 ways to improve as an athlete, right? So that's skill work, like you're talking about drills, dribbling, step overs, shooting, the physical, which is like conditioning, lifting, and then the mind. And almost everybody focuses on the first 2, but almost no one focuses on the third, right? Which is crazy, because it's probably the most important and also the most neglected. And you saw some of the benefits before, but meditation also helps improve like memory, reaction times, the accuracy of your reactions. So not only are you going to react, but you're going to react in the proper way. But then also, like, think about how if you get like triggered in a game and it takes you 10 minutes to like get back to your respective person, your respective body. But if you use meditation, it takes you 5 minutes or 4 minutes. Yeah. I mean, and you multiply that, over all kinds of times. Or there's a thing called the sacred pause, right? Where some type of trigger happens, like a guy tackles you way too hard, or your coach cusses you out. And ordinarily it would take you, again, like 10, 15 minutes to be able to get back to your body and connect the body and mind again. But in meditation, you have the ability to do that sacred pause, which is instead of reacting, like snap reacting, punching the guy, cussing your coach out so you get subbed, you just take another moment or two, take a couple breaths. Sometimes it's 10 or 11 if it's like a real triggering moment.
Yeah.
But instead of that, you're able to take that sacred pause and be like, that has no impact on me.
Right.
It has no impact on my performance. And that's powerful as hell.
Yeah.
But we never focus on the mental side until you have a breakdown of some sort, like Kevin Love or one of these guys that are starting to speak out, luckily. But most of the time, the only time we pay any attention to the mental is when it's gone so bad that you actually have some type of breakdown.
Do you think we'll get to a point, because this is the funny thing, in 2008, I think I was in Europe, is when I moved to Europe.
Right.
In 2009, I signed with a club in Slovakia, a really well-known club.
Yeah.
And so they had, they had a bunch of money to use on all sorts of extracurricular things. And so they were the only team in the league, and possibly even in that region, that had a sports psychologist employed full-time for their stuff. I wonder if we're going to get to the point where we have, I don't even know what you would call this, not a mind coach.
A mental coach.
Like a mental coach, because clearly mindfulness is happening at many of these clubs. I know in like Phil Jackson, everybody is pretty, do you know about his?
Yeah, and then Steve Kerr trickled on from
exactly.
Teams.
Yeah,
now Golden State does it.
Yeah. And if you pay attention to what they were doing, like Mike Tyson, when I hear him talk about what his coach, and I don't remember his name, it was an older guy.
Yeah, old white dude.
Yeah, white dude who then he passed away, right? So
that's when he went off the rails, is when that dude died.
Oh, really? Okay. Because they were drilling into his head also the focus and the mentality and what he needs to, and all that stuff. And he now later in his life is talking about how important that is, but you don't even realize how, and it's so ignored it's so entirely ignored. And we're finally, I think, also at a point in society where we don't make fun of that too. It doesn't seem to, it was distant before. It was this Eastern way of thinking, maybe, meditation. And there's people with, that could be Catholic or any of these, Western or Anglo-Saxon.
Conservative Baptist.
Yeah. And they don't want to, they think that, and obviously it has nothing to do. It can't have nothing to do with religion.
Most of the time it doesn't.
It doesn't. Right. You can attach it, obviously. But, and I also find it funny in general to know that the early Christians meditated.
Yeah.
Many of those sects meditated. That was part of their practice.
Well, and the example I always use is prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation's when you listen to God.
That's good.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that. But if you're just always talking to him, whenever you're ever gonna
shut up,
hear what he actually is trying to tell you back. So that's a big counter I use to the prayer meditation battle all the time. Is you're exactly right. It's non-denominational. Being present, like with your child or child to coach or coach to adult athlete. It's got nothing to do with religion. It can, like you said, if you want to be Buddhist, but meditation in its rawest form has nothing to do with Buddhism.
It's literally how to live properly and how to be present. And that's just everyone as a human or every conscious being, it's something that they have to deal with. Have you done anything?
Also, real quick, circling back to your initial point with Phil Jackson, the NBA has started to require a mental skills coach with every team.
Okay. So
they were the first one that really made that jump.
It's going to happen.
All their athletes got subscriptions to Headspace. I prefer MindSport.
Yeah, MindSport. We'll hook you up there. I'll call Steph.
And then, so here's the example I always use, and you're around the same age as me, so you'll be able to relate to this a little bit. In the late 90s, when I was going through high school, my high school coach, who was an old school guy, we couldn't lift because he thought lifting messed up your shot. Right. And so then it was obviously proven very quickly where you were going to be a much more successful athlete if you lifted. Now, obviously, you can't lift like crazy heavy a day of a game, but you need to lift. Everyone does. Then it became in the late 2000s, which is probably closer to when you went through, it became everyone had a nutritionist on staff. Like every college that was worth its weight would have some kind of nutrition coach that helped you understand dieting and how what you put in your body affected your performance. And so now I think in the late 2000s, what it'll be is the mental side, where it was weights, then it was nutrition. Now it's going to be, okay, this is how, if you're stressed the fuck out because you have a test or your girlfriend broke up with you and you don't have some kind of mechanism in place to deal with that anxiety, then you're going to be triggered and you're not going to perform well. And I think that's starting to be a realization. The case.
How funny it is how backwards that is. It should have been the very first thing we were concerned with at all. And what I was going to ask is, have you heard of the thing called, I think it's called Muse? You heard of this?
Nope.
Muse, it's a thing that you put on they measure.
Oh, I've seen them.
Have you seen
I didn't realize that was a name, but yeah.
I think they're called Muse. Okay. I don't know because I'm interested. I don't know everything that it does. It's not measuring brainwaves, or it is measuring brainwaves, I think. Yeah. I think it's measuring brainwaves. It measures your heart rate.
That's not it.
Yeah.
That's funny. So there was a church, satanic possession. There was a church. I'm from Springfield, Missouri, which is ultra conservative. And this church there was having a class. They were called Flow. That was called Flow, which is essentially a form of yoga, which in turn has meditation. And that priest came out and he made this huge uprising because
what happened here?
He said yoga was like worshiping the devil.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and. I mean, he's
that guy.
I think he was it was almost like a Twitter troll. I think he was just trying to
provoke.
Yeah. Maybe get his attendance up or whatever. But he said, if you do yoga, you're possessed by the devil and some sex demigod. And I mean, it was wild.
Yeah. Those, I mean, I get it. There's because it's always going to be, that's the outsider. Muse, by the way, is Muse.
Oh, there we go.
I think. Yeah. Okay. But so I've wanted to get one of these. I can feel it. And that's one of the things also that's helping to lead the charge with mindfulness is when they can have all these peer-reviewed journals documenting, their findings on what meditation can do. And we have so much evidence that it's just absolutely insane on what it can do and how little you have to do actually to change.
5 minutes.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing because you don't have to do anything. But this thing right here, I want to get because it gives you yourself. You'd have a.
So we're working on integrating this into the app, and I've got a great story on this
there
for
you
you. I went to a sports psychologist here in Kansas City that had heard about the app, and he and I just started to talk real casually. And then he works with a lot of athletes as a sports psychologist on like heart rate and getting him in what he calls like the zone or like
using heart rate though.
Yeah, so
this thing measures that, right?
Well, this one said brainwaves. I think you were right.
They have a second one.
Oh, do they?
Sorry, they have a Muse 1 and a Muse 2, and the Muse 2 measures this HRV thing.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
perfect. So this was it. So I took this test and.
Well, you had one on?
Well, so this was funny. This is a great story, actually. So I go to the sports psychologist, never met the dude, and it's about 30 minutes away from here, and it was noon or 1, and I was having that kind of mid-afternoon lull. So there's a quick trip half a block from this dude's place, and I get an 8-ounce Red Bull, and I just slam it going in, not knowing, and like just wanting to be alert. And I don't condone Red Bull. I don't even drink them. But it was one of those deals where I was like, man, I need to be like attentive and present.
Yeah.
So let me make sure. So I go in, right? Great. And like literally slam it in that half block. Walk in, and him and I chat for about 20 minutes. And he's like, yeah, come back here. Let me show you what the assessments look like. So he hooks me up to this thing that measures my heart rate.
You're all jacked
and I don't
up.
even know what I'm taking yet, right? Yeah, and I've just slammed this Red Bull, and he said, here's what you do. You stare at this candle, so it's on your monitor, and it's a candle. He's like,
on a computer screen? Or?
Yeah, on a computer screen.
Okay.
And then it's got a thing hooked up to your ear that measures heart rate. And he said, you stare at the candle until the candle goes out. And then once it goes out, your heart rate's at the optimal level. So again, that's like all he gives me. So he puts this thing on my ear, and I'm just staring at this candle, like electronic candle. And so what I start to do is I just start to meditate, right? So I'm doing like 2 to 3 second inhales, 2 to 3 second exhales, trying to keep my mind present, be still. So I do it, and I think it took me like 1 minute and 26 seconds for the candle to go out. So the candle goes out, and I turn back. He's behind me sitting on a couch in his office where they do these assessments. And I was like, all right, I think I'm done. And he's like, he looks over my shoulder, and he's like, oh, 1 minute 26. He's like, that's good. I did it in 13. And I said, 13 seconds? And he goes, no, 13 minutes.
13 minutes?
And he said that I was the second fastest time he had ever even heard of. And he works with a ton of he works with a ton of pro athletes. He said, that's the fastest time I've ever seen in person. That's the second fastest time I've ever heard of. The fastest time is by this incredibly high level PGA golfer that says is the most like in tune, in breath athlete he's ever done.
That is,
and I did that shotgunning a Red
Bull
like 20 minutes before I take this assessment.
You're a Zen master yourself. This is what's going on here.
It was funny though, because so then like a week later I met with the rest of his people in his office, and he tells them that story. And he's like, yeah, he did it in 1 minute and 26. And they all just start busting up. They're like, oh my God, that's incredible. And again, I still like, I mean, I heard what he said, but I was like, it wasn't a big deal. But it was all just meditative breath.
It's unreal.
Well, dropping into that zone quickly.
That reminds me of the story that they told. There was this guy. You know what Sadhguru is?
I do not.
Don't know Sadhguru. Look at this. Yeah, learning all sorts of stuff.
I know,
so this guy's
all our meditative paths are crossed in other directions.
Yeah, he's a very famous guru in India right now.
Okay.
He's really charismatic. So people are drawn to him, and he's preaching.
Oh wait,
there you go. That's his. That must be Jaggi Vasudev. That's crazy. But yeah, Sadhguru is how he's known, and he tells the story of when he had to go in for testing.
Oh, okay.
And so he went in the same thing that you did. They hooked him up to all sorts of things, and they told him, hey, we just go ahead and meditate, and we'll monitor you over here.
Right.
So he sits down and he starts to do his form of meditation, and he's got his eyes closed. He said, and he was just doing his thing, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. About 2 minutes or so into the thing, he starts to feel a knocking at his knee, and he thinks, okay, maybe they're just doing like some testing,
physical test.
Yeah. And so he keeps going, but then the knocks got harder and harder, and so he thought, oh, Jesus, all right, fine, I'll come out of my meditation, to do it. So he opens his eyes and he says, is everything okay? And they said, oh, it's just according to our measurements, you're dead. He was just like, don't tell me that. It's yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like and that was one of the funniest things that I'd seen. I listened to this other podcast called Mysterious Universe, and that was one of the things that they were speaking about. One guy went and traveled through Tibet, and he was having a real hard time getting some of these monks that were there in Tibet to participate in tests like this.
Right.
He knew that the Western world needed proof of these things in order to convince more people to do it. And that was what was happening. So you were able to do it like very, very quickly. Obviously, you're a seasoned meditator and continuing to always get better. Those guys, when they would hook them up, they would tell them, all right, you go ahead and start your meditation. And like, as soon as they would, it's like a switch. So how we move our hands, they can do that with their minds. Yeah. And it makes perfect sense to me because we don't train our minds. Right. We were never taught to train our minds. But if it was a thing from when you were little to meditate, to learn how to do this, you would do it no different than how I can play some of those
soccer. Start at like 10 or 8. You know, they get in there.
Yeah. And I mean, I can kick a ball in a way that I would imagine someone who's never kicked a ball at all could never even imagine it. And I'm not messy. You don't need to be. That's just the fact that I've been training this one action over and over again for 30 some odd years. It's, you know.
Yeah. Another interesting thing to me, and I'd be curious to get your feedback on this. What I've found is like, loud triggering noises or like bangs or like what most people would be scared by. I don't react to really anymore. And I read a story on that about some of the monks that were, not to get too heavy, but that were lighting themselves on fire. They actually studied them. And
were they full, like not self-immolation? That's what it's called, right? That's what I'm talking about. The ones that were killing themselves.
Yeah. Okay. It talked about the reason they were able to do that is when you become advanced in your meditative state, you react to stuff way longer. Now you feel things more intensely. So like the reason they were able to do it is they could not feel anything for so long. And then when they would feel it extremely intensely. But I found that I've become extremely non-reactive to like bangs or like sudden movements or like stuff to where I know if I'm in an advanced state, like if you're an athlete, you would want to react quickly. But if I'm not, if I'm in like a chill state, like a Zen state, and I'll hear a bang, like my girlfriend or whatever will like jump, you know, and I'll
you'll be like,
I'll like casually
move with the force. You just kind of move,
and then I won't even react.
I've found, So I mean, I do know about this and them studying that, but I can 100% concur with you like that. I can, when my brain, and not that it's not anywhere near perfect now at all, but clearly it's better off from doing the meditation. When I was younger, I would either that monkey brain mind, it ties into that chaos. So like that bang happens, and they tested that on those Tibetan guys as well. They had different reactions to loud noises. Your response is different, but that just goes to show you what it does for your emotions as well, because emotions, when they bubble up, are no different than a loud bang right next to you, because they hit you real quick. And if you don't have that pause or that second to look at the emotion and say, I'm getting really angry right now, I want to punch this guy in the face. If you don't have that second to say, oh, it's just me being...
You can go now, anger. You can go now, anger.
Yeah. I don't need you for this.
I like to label it like that, where I'm like, oh, this is anger. I see you, anger. Like you can go now.
But isn't it crazy to actually be able to do that? I mean, that's not something that people are aware of that you can do. Most people are attached. I mean, we all are to a certain degree, but the separation between thoughts and emotions, and that's one of the craziest things that'll happen in meditation. When you sit down, specifically the practice of meditation, when you sit down and you have no sensory input, no sort of stimulation that is, and you just see what's floating around your ether in your head. And you might obviously very superficially, you'll run through maybe the show that you're watching, the first few things that you have on your mind. And then if you just sit there in a room, because that's kind of the crazy thing with meditation. If we can just put you and you don't meditate, if I sit you in a room, a white room with nothing, and we give you nothing.
$multi-million studio.
Yeah, exactly. Like this. But if we just let you sit there and do nothing, eventually your mind starts to calm. Yeah. And it will race and race and race until it's just kind of tired itself out. Like a little kid. You just got to let them keep going. Just let them keep going until they, tire themselves out. And then it just happens. And I don't know. I find that interesting. In the same sense, there's this room. Have you heard of there's a room where I guess even if you have sound canceling headphones on and all that stuff, you still pick up some sound, but there's a room somewhere. They built it underground where it's like the quietest place.
Yeah.
Have you not heard of this?
Now, have you done? I'm curious, not to sidetrack. Have you done
Sure.
the sensory deprivation tank stuff?
Not yet.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan talked about that some on his podcast.
Uh-huh.
He did it for like 2 hours, and
I would love to.
That'd be pretty intense. But
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah, because the idea of not being able to feel. Because have you ever had any crazy experiences? Now I'm derailing my own story, but like.
Well, yeah. So I told you a little bit with the breathing stuff, where I've felt where like I was leaving my body. Or, like,
Sure.
floating away, and I don't want to scare newbies off, because that's really advanced, right? That's like
For
years
sure.
into it of pretty intensive. But yeah, I've had situations where I felt like I was looking down at me, or
Mhm.
like floating out of my body. And
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of. There's all sorts of reasons for.
you see colors and
Oh,
all kinds of that stuff
tons.
in your meditation.
Yeah, when you alter your state of consciousness like
Right.
that, I mean, it can happen. It does not by any means. Who knows what it is, obviously, but
Quick side note to that, though, it's interesting because one of the first lessons I learned in meditation is you have to be really careful with that, because most people will then chase that. And
Get an
wanna-
attachment.
I want to feel that, and that, yeah, exactly. That becomes
yeah,
a craving. That becomes an
Yeah.
attachment where you're like, man, I want to see these beautiful colors, or I want to float away again.
well,
And you just have to,
yeah.
you just have to take whatever your practice gives you that day.
That's what the because those are called siddhis,
Mhm.
yeah, in Indian. I
Mhm.
don't know what tradition this is. We type in Siddhi. Have you heard of the siddhis?
I mean, I know exactly. I didn't know that was the term for it.
It's essentially
Right.
what that means. It's superpowers.
Oh, okay.
So when you were saying people not to get attached into
Yeah.
their cities, there's a list
there
of
you go.
cities
Yeah.
that you can go, and so there's so many different ones.
Yeah.
And obviously looking at them, so we've got sensory control, happiness, bodily and sensory perfection, communion with the divine. No, these aren't even them. These are the Yoga Sutras. There's types. Okay, there you go. Becoming almost weightless, expanding one's body to an infinitely large size, reducing one's body to the size of an atom, control of the natural forces. Like
I've felt weightless before.
weightless for sure.
Yeah. I don't see color on there.
Yeah.
That's more of a. So you were talking earlier about that's more of like a chakra reading, or like if one of your chakras is really excessive, you'll generally see that color in your practice, like purple or blue or orange or whatever.
I mean,
I've seen that quite a
the
bit.
great debate on is whether or not there's any truth to these, or is the issue that none of us put in the amount of effort to ever get to this thing.
Yeah.
And once again, it became, or where they teach in this practice essentially is that these things will come up as you continue on down your path.
Mm.
Do not get attached to them,
Right.
because you will get lost in them. Obviously, if I could control the natural forces, does that mean me Storm from X-Men? Like I can,
Yeah, right.
I mean, I can tell you right now, I'm going to get lost in that. So if I can become Storm and I get to control the weather, I'm gone. I'm no longer interested in continuing my path. I'm just going to go control the weather. So that's one of
Cool
those.
shit.
It would be, but it would be awesome. Maybe I could just have a little pause. I'm gonna tell my guru, let me just stop here
Like,
for a second with
notice
telepathy.
the fact that you're being a little excessive at this time, and then come back.
Yeah.
Come back in.
Yeah. No.
Real quick though, so one of my big teachings that I do for the athletes, and this is in the app, is this whole topic is about craving versus aversion, right? And it's interesting because obviously no one likes to feel things they dislike. No one likes to feel hate. No one likes to feel anger, and we'd like to get over those quicker, which is a beautiful part of meditation. Is you can avoid your aversions at a higher level. What I found was interesting, and this was a challenge for me, was like when I won or when I performed well as an athlete, I craved to do it again so intensely that I was never present with that actual moment. And so that became the big thing to me, and this gets into a little bit what we're talking about, that battle of craving versus aversion. And meditation helps you to eliminate that. Is it can be really tricky as an athlete, because you can be so worried about craving that next high of performing at a high level or winning or being the best, beating out the person in front of you, that you're never able to be present in your performance. Just like what we're talking about now with our meditation practice. And that was a huge kind of light bulb moment for me, was getting over that craving of you should strive to be as good as you can possibly be as a person, but it shouldn't become to where you're so attached that it controls you.
Of course.
And you're never able to enjoy a great performance or a great practice or, a great sit, because you're just constantly craving, chasing that next thing, chasing that dragon, as they say.
It's such a hard battle, though, because that's the thing. And I know exactly what it is. A lot of times you can have I've had a good run of games.
Yeah.
Or if you have one game and then the next game, like they come in like these spurts and waves, you know, and it could be 3 or 4 games long. It could be 6 months long. And then like when you hit that maybe bump or something like that, you're starting to then either try and create this loop, and you're not thinking about what else is going on right now, or taking that pause, and it becomes this chasing thing rather than this
or
present.
Such a passionate aversion to like not wanting to suck again. You feel like that controls you too. That's
society though too. That's us. We have this weird desire to push, to keep going, and we don't know where we're going. I don't know where we're going. What is does the human race have a goal?
That's heavy.
I don't know. Do we?
I mean, I don't think you could generalize it like that, because like who's in control of the human race? I mean, I think
isn't it we all are? I don't
That's
know.
what I mean. It's like I think all we can do is independently be, and this drives back to what I was saying almost as an athlete too. I think all we can do is try and live like kind and joyful and like spread love and still be competitive. Like a lot of people get that twisted too. They're like, man, I'm not on that foo-foo stuff. Like I want to dominate. You can dominate and still be a good person.
Yeah. No, there's nothing stopping you.
You can treat people well and still be like an alpha on the field or on the pitch or on the court.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, how can I live my life? And this is a big part of what I do with Mind Sport. You know, we've got like 25,000 users now that are listening to these sessions where I'm like, man, if I'm impacting hell, even at like a fifth of that, to where I'm making their day better or helping them be more present. It's like, how can you find, like what you guys do with all the subscribers you have? Like if you're helping, you know, a tenth of your subscribers to have a better day or to like spread that love, that message to somebody else, to me, it's using our voice, using our platforms to spread that vibe that becomes a thing. Because I think there's always going to be shitty people, like no matter what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, you know, ignore those people.
Yeah, let them do their thing.
Present with the ones that make you who you want to be, and then build your world like that.
I find it really interesting because that's one of the ways young people also look to change the world a lot, is they want to change other people too. And there's obviously those really cliched quotes, and I don't know if it's that from Gandhi or Michael Jackson.
Be the change you see in the world.
Be the change you see in the world. You know, and I take that one to heart the most because then you could get into something like my political views. Like in the last election, I didn't vote for either of them. I didn't like either of them, but I don't have a whole lot of, I voted for everything that was going on locally, Kansas City. That was what I felt I wanted to do. And I've always felt that if I'm going to put any sort of stamp on the world, that it's on me to set the example for that and lead a charge for that. I don't have any desire to want to go, hey, Ryan, you shouldn't play. Your jump shot it's all right. But like if you do it like this and try and do, would be better if I just become Steph Curry and influence the world like this. Everyone now wants to shoot like him. And it makes sense because he did himself perfectly. Clearly he had influences.
That's a great
Clearly
point.
He had coaches. And he looked and he made out. That's pretty much what we teach and coach on the YouTube channel. Like every once in a while, so we make a lot of videos of like play like Ronaldo, play like whatever. That's just a catchy title for the thing. Once you get into the video, you see that we say you can't play like this guy. Let's see what he does really well, and then how you can take that and then make it your own.
Yeah, I love that.
That's all we want you to do. That's the type of soccer or football that I grew up on. My dad had the influence, playing for the Nigerian national team, heavily influenced by obviously colonization from England. That's how that the British Empire is there. But he loved Ajax, and so his coaching style is from Holland, and all it was really free flowing. And so that's one of the things that we actually have a huge problem on. Not that you know tons of what's going on in U.S. soccer right now. We don't create. Obviously, we're not having a very good time at all. We didn't qualify for the last World Cup. Obviously, that's pretty much your.
I actually do. I would say I'd have an above average knowledge of it. Yeah, but I would be curious. Maybe this is sidetracking a bit because I want to circle back to your political point. I think that's important. But yeah, if that's like an institutional
issue,
yeah,
you're wondering,
because I mean, I know we get a little off path because like a lot of the best athletes play basketball or football or baseball or whatever. But I still think with our numbers, we should have a better national team.
See, that's the thing, though. It's really funny. So 2 things to that point. A, it's not even a numbers game. So for instance, you got China. They're massively huge. India also huge. They should have a decent.
Maybe.
It should be a little bit better, right? But here you got the issue of a country like the World Cup was between France and Croatia. Croatia has less than 3 or 4 million people.
10 million people.
Yeah, no, not even close. Like 3 million, like 3 or 4 million. And they dominate and have done so.
What New York City is like 10 million. Right?
Yeah. So we should have, and considering that we also have probably I don't know, a few 100,000 Croatians in our country in general. Like, could we not just go grab a few? Yeah. The problem in America isn't, 4 million
What's
people.
New York City? Pull that up.
Yeah.
See if my math's right on that.
10 million? I'm going to go with 12 million. I'm going to go 15. I'm going to go 15 million people live in New York. 8?
8.5, yeah.
Is that just New York? That's New York, the state? There's only 8 million people?
LA's 4.
What a population elsewhere? Why does it say New York 20 million? What kind of whack ass stats is Google just pulling up right here? They got 20 million on the side. Yeah, so it's 19. So 20 million.
Oh, that's probably New York State. Yeah, that's New York State.
Oh, so it's New York State has 20 million, and New York City has almost 10.
8.
Okay.
8.5, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Now I have no idea what I was talking about at all.
Well, you're talking about how our team should be better.
Oh,
because even the Croatian, just the amount of Croatian.
Yeah, and that's not even a thing. Obviously, they have a history of the sport, which is something that we are struggling with. Our academy system is messed up, but a lot of it comes down to identifying players because there are. And you said that, and this is something that gets said all the time, is that our best athletes play other sports. But the truth is, we don't need a LeBron in soccer. We don't need him. Like, it'd be cool, but there's really no LeBrons out there.
We like a goalie.
Yeah, he'd be in the back crushing people. Like, LeBron and I are the same age. When I was 20, I looked at LeBron. I'm like, this guy's 45.
Right.
Like, it was just ridiculous. But
It looked like it.
Our issues are more in the creation of these type of players. That we have this one guy named Pulisic right now.
Yeah.
He's actually of Croatian descent.
Yeah.
He's Croatian.
He's killing it. Well, I saw finally he got moved teams, right? And
he's on Chelsea. A little bit. Yeah. He's a great player, but he's very creative. We've created a few of these players, but the problem is that America, we don't have a style yet. We kind of did. In 2002, we did really well at the World Cup, and our style is like, the American way. We don't give up. Yeah. We feel like we should always win. We feel like we're the best. We are tough. Yeah. And we're never going to, we don't give a shit. Like, and I've had a chance to meet over the course of these last 8 or 9 years doing some work with U.S. soccer, all of the women's side, because, the women are essentially the great of all time. Yeah. It's not even remotely close. Right. All of these women from from the 90s and to now. So I've got to meet some of them. Yeah. And their mentalities and their minds. Yeah. It's off the charts.
You said a lot of them are into meditation. We talked about that a little bit.
They just get it. And I don't know if it's the section of women being more intuitive, and just kind of having that just the separation, and guys, we're just like, all right, let's crush, we're going to destroy this guy. But their mentalities and the way that they see the world outside of the sport, because majority of them that I am now friends with, they are done playing, but everything that they do is in this level. They just assume they're going to win, and then they back all that up. And so it's really interesting. We're definitely going to have one or someone that would be cool to get Megan Rapinoe. And I just interviewed Rose Lavelle, who is a very good, very skillful player, and they just get it, And I would wonder. I don't know if the national team has a coach.
Of that.
Or no, I just meant I don't know if we were working on that. We're creating that on the women's side in droves. We're just creating this mentality where these girls are just like, we're the best. Here's what we got to do. Our mindset is like this. We don't care. They go smash Thailand 13-0 in the World Cup. Everyone cries about it. They don't care. Go out to the next game. Crush that. It's just.
Well, and who was it? I thought it was interesting this past season too. Was it Carly Lloyd that came off the bench and had
all the time
been lights out, and that was really tough for her, but she still accepted it and took on a role and just killed it. Yeah. And she'd come in in the 60th minute or 7th minute, and then she hated it, but still killed it.
And kicking field goals and stuff too, right? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
That's
55-yarders.
55-yard? Yeah. Brent has told me that kicking field goals is not that hard. He thinks that I should just walk in there and just straight up. I don't know.
Have you ever tried it?
I've never tried it.
So I went out and I told you guys off air, I played until I was a sophomore, and I could kick way further than the kicker on the football team. I would go out and kick 40, 45-yarders, and I was not a strong.
But you didn't have the form, right?
If I would imagine if somebody like you that had been doing it forever.
A good kicking
I mean,
form, kicking
I
things.
kicked soccer style, but
Sure.
my leg strength and all that wasn't.
Can we throw the video? Throw the video, man. Press play on this.
She said that she got legit interest and said that it would take her a year
to learn how to do this,
to like train properly.
But she's not doing she's doing like a soccer step, right? Is this the problem? Is that people are all pissed off because you can't take that many steps?
Well,
she
I don't
crushed
think
it.
Yeah, and I don't think
how far is that?
55.
That's 55 yards.
Yeah.
What's the longest field goal in the NFL ever?
Somebody banged one from 64, I think, this year.
Is that the longest ever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
64 yards.
Yeah.
So 64 yards.
that is a little
Which is from the 54-yard line.
She's standing a little far back.
So she's from
you probably get 3 steps, 4 steps. So maybe she won extra. Yeah.
But
so
still.
she could just leave a little earlier though.
Well, that's what
right?
they were telling her. She'd probably take a year to train that way. But yeah, pretty dope.
It wouldn't take her a year. No,
to learn how to do that.
Serious, I think that you could be an NFL field goal.
Okay, when I'm finished.
Beckham could do it.
Oh yeah, imagine those really good
With the heavy leg.
Yeah.
Wind and,
I wonder what Ronaldo or someone with.
Could you
heavy
imagine?
ass leg.
Could you? He's going to come to the U.S. too. You know that he's coming to the MLS.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not confirmed, but I can tell you right now, people,
at some point.
if Ronaldo doesn't come to given his mentality, how lucrative it will be for him. Beckham just picked up this team in Miami. I think they start in 2020.
I heard that he's been planning that for years now.
It's been
when he became an investor of Miami, it was with the intention of he thought he'd be able to get him here.
Oh, you mean when he became a MLS player?
No, he's an investor of the Miami team, right?
Yeah, well,
and I heard it was all with the intention of being able to eventually get like Ronaldo here.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Like years
okay.
of planning.
Yeah. Oh no, I can imagine that's it. Miami would be a perfect place for Ronaldo. LA's kind of been done, and Ibrahimovic just left there. That was a great thing for us.
Yeah.
It looks like he's just going to go sign for AC Milan.
Right.
But Beckham, when he signed here, actually, it's really weird with that. So we played AC Milan when I was with the Chicago Fire, and Beckham was playing for Real Madrid, and so we were doing like this little 4-game exhibition, type thing
Exhibition
at Soldier Field. And so they had training, and it was when all the superstars were at Real Madrid. Zinedine Zidane, Luis Figo, Beckham, Roberto Carlos, like everybody was there. So after they got done training, we were walking around in the locker room, and all of them were there. And it was really funny because I got to talk. I went up to Zidane, and he's real quiet, and he's gonna take a picture. And at the time you had disposable cameras.
Oh yeah.
So I had to give someone a camera. I'd be like, "Yo, come with me, and you gotta take a picture of me with this guy," and be coming up to him. And I would speak to each one of them to try and get their attention more in whatever language they were doing. So I asked in French, and then I asked in Spanish for each guy. And Ronaldo from Brazil, the look, and we have the pictures actually where you were walking down on your way into the studio. He looks confused. He looks like he doesn't know. He's like why am I taking this picture and what am I doing? But Beckham and this other guy named Michael Owen, they were off to the side, and it was funny. My friend Leo Griffin, shout out to Leo. We'd taken pictures of the people we wanted to. Yeah. Said hey to everybody, and we're talking. It was really fun. But Beckham looked like a lost puppy. No one was talking to him. I swear, no one was talking to him. He was just sitting there, and he was looking for somebody. It was at a cocktail party.
This is awkward.
Yeah, he was like, "This is awkward." So we were like, "We should go back him up." So we started to talk to him, and we said, and Leo asked, "Hey man, what do you think about coming to the MLS?" And it was 2 years before he was at Real Madrid.
Yeah,
it was not happening. And he goes, "I think I'd probably do it." know, and that was probably the confirmation. I knew he was going to come too. It made sense.
Yeah,
just like Ronaldo, it makes sense. When Beckham signed, they gave him a deal, I believe, on owning a team.
Oh,
so that's why he owns a team. Yeah. I think it costs $150 million to buy in now, and then you got to have a stadium, plans for a stadium.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah, I'm definitely excited about that. And they used to think that we were only going to have 20 teams in the league.
I'll ask you this question. I asked Jack. So I told you guys again off air. My buddy Jack Dewsbury, who played in KC and
with me,
and then played for
jerseys up here somewhere.
Played for the Timbers. Yeah, when they won it all, I said, if you played, so this was when they were the best team in the MLS.
Mm-hmm.
If they played the best team in the Premier League 10 times, what would the results be?
They would tie or win once.
He said he hoped they could tie one time.
They would tie or win once. The best team? Did you say the best team?
The best versus the best.
They would tie or win once.
Yeah. That's what,
however, though, with the problem is though playing teams like that, it wouldn't be necessarily fair. After like the third or fourth game, we could bring in a defensive specialist. We could pack that shit in, just pack it in, and you frustrate them.
Yeah,
and you could pull out some more ties.
Get a fast break.
Yeah, you could pull out some more ties. But if we played them straight up, if both teams played straight up, MLS side wouldn't win a single game. Yeah, not one.
That's pretty much what he said.
No,
he said,
and that's the case.
Lucky to win, maybe tie one time.
Yeah, you could pull off a win, and anything's possible in soccer, especially if it's one game. That's the great thing, is that we don't do any 7-game series, like that, and that's how you get these upsets, because they have the FA Cup in.
Yeah, Tottenham got smoked by like some third, fourth seed. That's a team I follow. No, this was a few weeks ago, right before the guy got fired, but they got beat by like a third tier, fourth tier team.
That's it. It happens, man. Yeah. It can happen. I've definitely played in games. I've been on both sides of that. Yeah. Where you beat a team, like we'll beat a team that's playing in the Champions League.
Oh yeah.
And they're just wondering what in the hell, like how did? And then on the other side, when you lose to a team that hasn't won a game all season,
right?
And something it's crazy to watch though too. You almost feel helpless in games like that. It's just to bring everything back together.
The flip side of the mental,
you just like
it's out of body almost.
What do we do here? It's been so easy. We've always been in the flow state, and then when that thing hits, it's like that quote they talk about. Everybody, whatever, thinks they can fight until they get hit in the face or something like that.
Mike Tyson quote. It was everybody thinks they can win until I hit him that first time.
You punch him in the face, and they're like, oh shit!
Yeah, never mind. I went out.
Yeah. I can imagine that. That would just be.
I do want to circle back to, because I think you brought up a really interesting point with the political thing when you said you didn't vote, and I don't want to make it too political, but I think it's important to understand this is true in life and in sports and in politics. All is if you're like really left or really right, you got to understand that somebody's thinking the exact opposite of you, like at that exact moment, right? And even I think it was the Dan Harris guy on his podcast said he had a guest on one time that said that the people that were in the planes that knocked down the towers in 9/11 like thought they were right.
They were 100% sure.
That was like a heavy mind shift for me. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't think they were. But the point is, like, don't get too set in your ways in any of this stuff. Again, circling back to the mental side of things, like be open to conversations, like be open to different lines of thinking, life-wise and sports-wise, because if you're just dead set one way and you think you're right and you won't even empathetically listen to the conversation or to the other side, then you're just setting yourself up for that whole craving versus aversion thing, which is like, you're just being so set in your ways that you're not willing to listen. And I think that's really important for athletes and just us as a society is like be open to conversations. You may not agree at the end of the conversation, but if you think you're 100% right and you won't even listen, then more often than not, you're probably wrong.
Yeah, that's essentially what's going on, and that's what we're seeing play out more or less in the U.S. to a certain degree. I mean, maybe things are changing now, and I mean, we're going to have the election.
I hope so, yeah.
I mean, because that's what it was. It was just like we got this hard line going on in the country. It's just split. This is happening. And I've never seen anything like that in my lifetime where it was so split. I wonder if there was ever a time where it was so fractured like that. Where people maybe you got to way back to like
Civil War,
like slavery time, like where it was just like this is going to happen, or like I don't want this, or I do.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're not at that level of craziness, where war is going to break out. But I saw, and this is probably propaganda, but I remember when it was a few years ago in Russia on one of their news channel things, they had because we were having some issues in these debates about what should happen, that Russia was predicting that we were going to split into 5 small separate countries, that we were all going to just
oh yeah.
It was clearly propaganda, to show
Texas, maybe
America's Texas is it. All right. That's all. I was just like, it's not happening. Like Alaska, you need us to be real now. You don't want to be lost up there all alone. Okay. Kansas, I feel like we'd be okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's the coast that don't realize how much they need the middle of the country. I think that's what's going on.
It'd be like New York, Cali, Texas.
They'd break off and figure out some way to just
because because they've got so much money domestically that they could
true.
sustain life.
That's true. We can sustain life out here with our wheat and our corn. Iowa, we'll just get that Midwest.
Maybe snatch Missouri up with it.
Yeah, it's going to be states trying to take over states. I don't know. If in the Midwest, so Chicago they'd get on their shit real quickly. Illinois would get on their shit real quick, help out with Springfield.
Well, that said Chicago's the third biggest, right? City.
Yeah. In the U.S.?
Yeah, I think that's what it said. I think it said New York.
What's that?
New York, L.A., Chicago.
Is that in order?
Yeah.
Not L.A., New York? Oh, it's okay.
It was New York, L.A. Then whenever you do those two, then you get into like what counts as New York, what counts as LA.
Yeah.
Because LA, it's so big.
And then Chicago's really the next.
I think it said that was what
after that.
Yeah.
But then
I think you get into Texas. Then I think it's either Dallas or Houston.
Yeah, those places are huge. Yeah. That is really. Have you been there? Have you been to Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
A bunch.
Yeah. A bunch. Yeah. So have I. Yeah, I've been there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I like it a whole lot. It is another.
It's the only one that's like they think as a state differently.
Yes.
Than just about anywhere else.
Yeah. As a good collective.
Like California and Texas are about as like polar opposite as you can get.
Oh no, that's
Cali
so true.
leans so left and Texas leans so right. I lived in Arizona. I coached junior college basketball in Arizona for a while. Arizona's maybe even a level up from Texas. They can still carry, and it's like the wild, wild west.
Yeah, I love that. I love it, dude. I think it's crazy. It's wild, and and I always have these conversations with European people about guns, and they don't ever understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I was telling the story just last night. I was at one of my best friend's house, and I hadn't seen his parents in a while. So they were asking questions about Europe and stuff like that. And I was explaining the story that back in 2005 or so, we went to a ranch. So I was playing for the Fire. Whatever the deal was, I think we had a game, and then we had time off. Like usually, they give you 3-4 days off if there's a break. And the owner, and they told me the name, Crocky. You would know this, David, the owner of Colorado. This maybe he owns the Nuggets.
Oh, Kroenke.
Is it Kroenke?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Denver.
Josh Kroenke's the son.
Okay,
he's like my age, and then I forget Stan.
All right,
Stan Kroenke.
Who do they own? Are they Avalanche and the Nuggets, or do they own something like that?
And then one of the Premier League teams now.
Okay,
yeah, Arsenal maybe.
No. Is it an American owner?
Yeah, Stan. I mean, it may not be Arsenal, but he owns. I know he owns a Premier League team.
Okay. Yeah, well, talk about money. My God. But so they had a ranch. I believe it was their ranch. I don't want to be wrong. I think it was. Huge ranch. Huge. And they just, in hindsight, terrible idea. They just let us run ramp. Like, they're just like, you guys are free to, like, some days off. Yeah. They gave us some vans. And, like, we're just, think about it, like 30 guys on this ranch.
Just roaming.
Just doing whatever. Now, the
Rams, too. I forgot. He owns the LA Rams.
He owns the Rams? Oh,
yeah.
This guy.
Because he moved him from St. Louis. That was like his big controversial move. He moved him from St. Louis to LA.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, we got, so one of the times we got some guns.
Yeah.
And I'd never fired a gun. So I was shooting at this time. I think I tried something else too. But I tried a shotgun. So it was doing that disc thing where you pull.
Oh, yeah.
First off, totally get it. Like from not ever, like if you've never had a gun, I don't care about your,
shooting.
Yeah, I'm not, whatever it is that we need to do about guns here in the country. If we just put that aside for 1 second to talk about how fun it is as a guy to shoot a gun out in the middle, it's awesome. And I want that. I want to be able to, or a girl, whoever, like just shooting guns is awesome. The recoil, because I didn't know how to hold it. I've been shooting because once I figured out how fun it was, you couldn't pull me away. Yeah. I was just shooting forever, and the recoil on my shoulder was killing me. But I would love to get back to a time where we could get happy, and like if we were just happy in here because we were celebrating something, we could just boom, 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 boom. I want to be able to do that out in public, just boom, 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 because it's so fun.
This is a great discussion because I'm the exact opposite. It like terrifies the shit out of me. Like I shot a gun one time into the ground, and I was like, I have no desire to ever shoot a gun ever again. I was like, that just scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because even just hearing it,
I
was like, I don't ever want to like touch a gun again if I can help it.
But see, I think I had a very good, happy experience out. Were you like in the city? Like that's my weird thing.
I was would get me arrested. I was like, I shot it in the ground behind the house in a suburban neighborhood.
Yeah. See, this is
like I didn't shoot my foot off or something.
Of course. But like that's and that's the thing. Like with the Europeans, like when I was living in Finland, they would check They would check, like you get the gun,
Yeah.
and then they go into your house, and the police come, like they check, something like this. They check where you're locking it. You have to make sure that it's locked up.
Wow.
There's all these rules and stuff that we don't have.
Interesting.
And obviously, we need to do something about it. Having mass shootings, the fact that we think it's just normal, that we're all just waiting. We're all right now waiting.
Yeah.
We know it's going to happen again.
I'll click on a story and it'll be like, 6 people were shot today, and
It's insane.
I don't even click on it anymore. I'm like,
yeah, that happens. That's a thing that just happens here, and it's amazing for it to have happened in Australia recently, in New Zealand recently.
Yeah,
and they banned guns. I believe they took them away. I don't know if I'm right. I want to check if this is not true. Like,
chop that
they
out.
gave them more guns. Hopefully not. But like they have a terrible thing happen, like a mass shooting, and they're just like, all right, no more guns. Australia, it happened. I know before they had a mass shooting, no more guns, and then it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And I know that we're not going to be able to get to that point right now in the U.S. where it's just like everybody handing your guns. That's not going to happen.
Well, it's such a moneymaker here. I don't know that it'll ever, especially politically.
I mean, is there a way? I don't know. Is there a way? Does it just need to be more background checks? Should we just not? Should there be an age limit? Maybe. Like, isn't it younger people?
Well, I do. I don't know, and I can't remember. And again, I don't want to get too political on this. I can't remember if Trump reinstated it or not. To me, like assault rifles are just stupid. Like, why should anyone have an assault rifle?
You don't hunt with them. That was my question because I don't know anything about hunting. Do you hunt?
If you're hunting deer with an assault rifle,
Can't you though? But that's the thing. You're gonna get some guys who be like, I do. I can't. I'm not a good shot. I need to set up my missile.
60 rounds in a minute to get a deer.
Well, you just go up to a herd and just fire off into this elephant herd.
So that's the thing to me where I'm like, well, that makes sense. Like
okay.
Like the shotgun to me is like as high as we should.
You should go.
Yeah.
Or a handgun to know, because isn't that the self-protection? I want to have a gun on me.
That one, would be a knockdown drag out because people would be like cops and stuff that are off duty or whatever. They're like, I want one in my house. And you'd have a really hard time, to me, getting anyone to ever say no to that. But assault rifles.
I know.
If you're just doing that, that's like you're trying to.
It doesn't make sense. Apart from, once again, my only point behind the gun is that it would be fun to shoot.
Yeah.
In a ranch in the middle of nowhere at a bunch of targets.
Or like military might need it. But
I'll give it to the military. The military can have all they want. I'm all good with that. But like, you're not going to. You're also. We talked about this the other day. As a matter of fact, the idea that if this is, and once again, I don't know anything about this issue. Obviously, that I know nothing about this.
Two experts talking about gun control.
There's guys listening to this with guns. That's not how you fucking
so
do
stupid.
it. Yeah, but like, if your reasoning for it, this is the only thing that I could think, and I don't know if this is a valid reason by some of these people. If your reasoning is, I need to protect myself and against the government too and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
What are you talking?
That's another good one.
We just got
a militia.
You need you now in 1776. I get it. They had rifles. We needed some other people to have some rifles. Now you need a drone, a tank.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to protect yourself if the government decides and we just have all out war? We're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
I always love that. Like you hear comedians say that every once in a while. If you think you and your 20 homies with assault rifles are going to take down the U.S. government, that's probably a little unrealistic, dude.
Yeah,
you can have as much guns as you want. But
we're just looking at the spending alone of what we spend.
Yeah. Here's a comment. We should throw this at every guest that comes on here. Do you know what countries the U.S. is fighting wars in right now? Can you name? Name what you know.
I should.
You would think you.
But I mean, Trump just got some heat because he was finally pulling some troops out of
Iraq, right?
Afghanistan and Syria and all those places. But yeah, there's no telling. Like, if you're talking about too, what we're actually giving military relief to, like what Trump's fighting this impeachment stuff over. I mean, that was a big thing because he essentially just got. There we go. He just got in trouble because of
wanting to pull out
400 million. No, he's like, I'll give you 400 million if you investigate Biden. I mean, that's essentially what this impeachment.
Oh yeah, the impeachment
is
scandal.
Over because he was like, we're going to pull 400 million from whatever country that was
of aid,
military
aid.
If we don't, so if you count that may be counted as, technically being, in a war aiding a country. If you're saying, well, what all countries are we giving money to? Because who knows how many that is.
On that. There's a great book called "The Confessions of an Economic Hitman."
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name, John something or other, and I haven't finished the entire book, but I'll go back to that. But it's 7, huh? So this is what freaks me out, because I can name off the top of my head Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, right?
Those would be the ones that would.
Those are the ones we know, right? Yeah. We've got Pakistan, Somalia, and
we're done with Iraq.
Okay, but like Somalia and northeastern Kenya
would have never gotten
since 2007. Like you didn't know your country was fighting in this. Like Niger is in West Africa. What's going on? What are we doing there? Why are we fighting there? Who's there? Yeah. I don't understand. So I don't know.
What are we fighting over?
I don't know any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I find that incredibly fascinating. And I have no idea what's going to happen, obviously, in a year. I am out of the loop. And I always come back home when I come home from these, and I ask my friends, like, what's going on? In the debates, I know, we just said we were going to get to it. I haven't seen any. I have not.
Bernie Sanders on Joe Rogan. I've mentioned him a couple times now. Obviously, I watch his podcast.
Sure.
Much. But you're right. He even went on his show, and he's like, the debates are so stupid because you get 30 seconds to speak into some heavy ass topic.
It's ridiculous.
Before someone cuts you off or starts yelling back at you. Man, I don't know what the answer to that is either. But yeah, the way our debate format is lined up right now isn't it?
It clearly must have been based on TV, or slowly formed to this TV thing.
It's part of how Trump rose to power. Was he's so good in like 60 seconds and like triggering people that you either like love him or you hate him,
right?
And he got enough people to love him, and so I don't know that was the right answer or not.
Yeah.
I obviously have my opinions, but he beat the system. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, it is really funny to see how people are so polarized on him. I've taken a step back because I've always declared myself, and I am an independent, because I just can't join up on your team, because eventually your team does something that I don't like.
It's going to have the wrong cat.
Yeah, or just does something that I disagree with, and I want to disagree with that. I don't want to do it because you guys have all decided. If you're on the right and we've all said we're going to do this no matter what, I can't do it. Same with the left.
Yeah, that to me is when you start taking logic out of it, because I was just telling someone this yesterday. If your argument for any discussion is that's just how we've always done it, then you're usually going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Or eventually going to be wrong.
100%.
And anybody that's like, well, that's just, and that happens a lot with party stances. It's like, whether it's a gun control or religion or like pro-life, pro-choice, they're just like, well, if you're on this side, this is how you think. And yeah, I really struggle with that. I don't think anything's that clear cut.
It can't be. And I remember I was at a barbecue a few years ago, and the discussion of religion got brought up, and it was probably like 6 or 7 guys. Everyone was talking about religion. I can only assume the majority of people were Catholic.
Yeah.
I know at least one of them is very conservative and very, so like I didn't necessarily jive with him, not conservative politically, but religiously.
Yeah.
Very Catholic, I believe he is.
Yeah.
And what I said, I didn't think was controversial at all. But what happened was I said I didn't care what anyone thought on their religious topics, so long as they had gone and analyzed their thoughts, made sure that it's the reason that they believe this because of X, Y, and Z, not because mom and dad said so, not because I was born into it, et cetera, et cetera. I said, then as long as he can understand that that's why he believes it, then great. At least he's taken the time to have some awareness to say that's why. Because, half of these people in the world, if we just swapped kids from over here in the U.S., placed them in Saudi Arabia, they would be Muslim, or, they would believe in Islam. And we swap these other kids over here, yet most people over here are Catholic, Christian. That's just what's going to happen. If you're born into it and you're surrounded by it, that's it. We'll take a second. If you do want to believe in it, check. Does it resonate with you? Are you sure you want to believe it? Why? And then go on.
Yeah, what's wild to me along that line is all religions, if you take like their 4 or 5 most like devout or intense beliefs, they're all the same. It's like don't kill, don't murder, don't rape, don't steal. And then they branch off after like 7 or 8. Now, who they say God is, obviously that's different. But they all believe in God, and that's a big thing about Buddhism that I respect is they're not trying to tell you who God is. It's just that there is a God. And I think if we all could live that a little bit, be like, hey, instead of worrying about these 10 or 15 pieces that we don't disagree with that are like way down the list of 100 things.
I know.
Let's just focus about these 10 priorities that we all agree. Like, let's not do that, or let's all do that.
Yeah, find the commonality.
And like, let's just figure that instead of isolating what we all disagree or hate.
No,
because I was raised. Yeah, I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic elementary. I played at a Baptist university, and then I coached at a Mormon junior college.
Wow.
So
Where at?
The Mormon Junior College.
Is that in Utah?
No, it was in actually this tiny town in eastern Arizona. That's when I lived in Arizona.
Is there a big Mormon?
Safford. Yeah, so the population of the town's like 70-75% Mormon.
Sorry, but it's hard to cut up. But like, what's the main Mormon belief? Because my only reference is that Joseph Smith? Is that?
Yeah. So he's like So usually Utah is exactly what you're talking about, and yeah. So they've got some real extreme beliefs, and the biggest thing to them was extremely conservative, probably more so than any. So like no premarital sex. You weren't even supposed to on campus. You weren't even supposed to be in a room with the opposite sex by yourselves after like 9 p.m.
Wow.
So like you couldn't even watch
no Netflix and chill.
Yeah, no Netflix and chill for sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things they did that I really appreciated, I was in a really fortunate incident. The head coach when I was there, I think I've told you about this, but his wife, they were going through divorce, and she felt like the only way she could get back at him was she killed herself and their 2-year-old boy.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
So I was at Eastern Arizona, and yeah, you can bring it up. His name's Tim Parmeter, and he ended up getting in some trouble for some other stuff, but she didn't know it at the time. But they were going through divorce, so she felt like the only way she could kill herself and their 2-year-old boy was to get back at him for the divorce. So I was 24, coaching like 22-year-olds, and yeah, there it is.
Oh my god!
Mother, child died, murder, suicide. So that'll happen. So then I became the interim head coach that year. But one of the things that the Mormon faith did, that was where the story was headed, was they didn't mourn the child's death or like wonder about what could have been. They celebrated his life, which was really cool and much needed for someone that's young. Because again, I have a 3-year-old son now, and I couldn't even imagine losing him. But instead of focusing on like what this wasted life, could have been, instead they just thought about, how much joy he brought in his 2 years of life and all that stuff. So that was really cool.
That's
of the Mormon faith.
That is that's a really great way to go.
But I guess that was my point in all of it is like, let's take the pieces and all of them that make sense and that we all agree on and focus on that as opposed to what's different and all that.
Yeah. It's just so hard because that's that attachment to.
Oh, for sure. It's like politics.
Oh, they just can't let it go. Yeah. We just don't want to let it go. And I don't know why, but we just, I mean, I do know why. I get it because you identify with the thing and that's, where are we at? What are we running here time wise?
We're like almost an hour and a half.
Oh my God. This that podcast black hole.
Luke. We went off the last 20 minutes or so on the. Yeah. I've got a couple of questions rapid fire I'd like to fire at you.
All right. Yeah.
What's on the agenda?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the most common questions we get within the mind sport world, when you're struggling with your confidence either personally or you feel like your coach is trying to rattle your confidence or maybe talking to you in a way that rattles your confidence, what tricks, meditation-wise, mindfulness-wise, what do you use to maintain or re-up your confidence when it's wavering?
We get that question. We get that question or something similar all the time. So I actually know what I would say, and I know what I've done, because just to preface all that, because I've played in so many different countries that have different coaching styles, cultures, peoples, and languages. So everybody has a different mentality. So like in Denmark, in Scandinavia, they don't scream as much at, Eastern Europe, on the other hand, is off the chains, off the charts. They're ready to rattle you. They either feel like you're ready, and if you can't handle me coming down on you and just screaming at you, cussing at you, and if you drown, then you're nothing. Then that means you're nothing. Men float.
Yeah. And
they can handle shit, and that is it. So the easiest way to handle that I have found, given is that I started young in my professional, at least for this country. 19 was young, and I was one of maybe 10 or 11 guys at that year that left college early. Mm-hmm. I recede and everything gets shrunk down into my goals, because usually what happens when the coach is screaming at you, when you're having confidence issues and you've got lost in some tangent or something, you are trying to do something that you most likely is not your internal goal. So even if it was, obviously you want to win the game, or obviously you want to score the goal, or you want to give the good speech, or whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to retain, and it's a pause. Yeah. So I normally, whenever I feel some sort of madness going on, and obviously this comes back to my meditation practice and the way that I'm trying to structure and live my life. Right. So it's a pause and a break. So I will write to clarify.
Interesting.
What it is exactly, because I have a lot of goals and I have a lot of different things that I do. I clearly don't. My career is not a normal footballer's career. They wouldn't do, or you don't do. No one's doing, I guess. This.
This wouldn't be the playbook.
Yeah, no, because you don't stop and they're worried about things. It's a whole idea. But what usually happens is that things hang out in the ether when you have some issues. Mm-hmm. And the best way for you to end anxiety that I've found is that you need to clarify what's going on. You need to clarify your shit, because you might be hiding from something, in your head. You might be worried about this, and two things usually happen when you try to clarify why you're freaking out. The thing that you're worrying about is actually not a big deal. And you'll figure that out when you actually figure out, like, what would happen if it didn't? What would happen if it did? Or why am I thinking like this? And you actually clarify it. I want to, before the season's happening, and you're worried about it, before the game is happening, what do you want out of this game? Mm-hmm. You're worried, and you're going to sit there worried because you're thinking about every possible outcome that would be. What you need to do, and this is a whole nother discussion on the influence of your mind and your belief and your thoughts on your future, and even remembering the past. But I clarify what I want to happen, and that clarification, that clarity will bring you peace. Mm. And if you can search for that clarity and actually make sure that becomes a thing, because you can just leave it. You could run through life with no desires, no goals. And it's not that you need to be a workaholic and all that. But even if you weren't interested in business or sports, you should know what you want from life. Yeah. You do know you want to be happy, right?
And what's your why? We talked about that a little bit too. That becomes like your motivation, all that stuff.
Exactly.
Very relevant. Yeah.
So you do know you want to be happy. You do know you want to be at peace, or you do know you want to have a house or a place to live, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Clarity is the way to end anxiety. Yeah. For me.
I love that. And so I just, to recap, so I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. Mm-hmm. It almost sounds like it's two pieces, which we talk about a ton, which is like understanding your why, like what you're accomplishing. It's like, if you're a lower level, like high school, middle school athlete, is, why am I playing the game? Or like, what's my reason for this? The other piece I really liked in what you said is, and I talk about this a ton with anxiety and stress. Anxiety and stress is usually either worrying about something that has already gone wrong that you don't have any control over, or what could go wrong, which you don't have any control over, instead of staying present, which is what mindfulness and meditation is all about. Right. So I like that, because it's almost, usually I say one or the other, but you're almost combining those pieces and remembering your why, like why you're playing the game, what your goals are, how you're going to attain those, but then also understanding that anxiety and stress is that what has gone wrong, what could go wrong,
right? And
don't worry about that, man. Just stay present.
It's in the present that you decide. And I feel like, especially with a lot of the kids that write in to us specifically, and a lot of them have such huge dreams. Many of them are playing in places. We get a lot of Indian kids or Nigerian kids that say, I want to play in Europe and do this, but they're not even playing on a team there, et cetera. And these what ifs and all that stuff. It's just so easy now. It's actually way easier now to get caught up in the nonsense than it was when we were growing up, because of obviously Instagram. You can just flip through and just see that, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I find that a lot of people, this outward focus is just phenomenal now. There's just so much outside that you can focus on. It needs to be a
Like noise, you mean?
yeah, that
Almost.
noise,
Yeah.
that out. Yeah. Exactly. It's truly noise,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that there needs to be more of a turn to centering yourself on what it is truly, because a lot of people are chasing also goals and things that I think maybe are just placed out there and they just kind of they're not sure why.
Yeah.
Once again, that's that beginning, clarifying your why, understanding why you even want to do this. They just run.
Yeah.
They're in a race. It's like they just got plopped in a race.
Right.
And they just start running.
Why am I running?
Yeah. You know, it's just like that. And I was
That's a good
never.
point. Yeah, I like that example. Then the last one I have for you, you've had a lot of transitions in your life. We get this question a lot. Transitioning from high school to college to pro, pro team to pro team. Because I know you've made a bunch of jumps. And then did you take a year off? Did you just say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you even transitioned out of the game for a minute.
Yeah, that's not a thing that.
So talk about the, I guess, transitions for you, because that's a big one that comes up is someone making transitions from their lives. And you've got, and you know, maybe we even make this into a series because you've had so many. I think that's really powerful. But those transitions in your life and what's helped you during those times of transition.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of them. So like, I can remember, funny enough, being in high school, getting ready to go, and I'm not sure if I knew where I was going yet. I went to St. Louis University, SLU.
So did Jack.
Yeah, exactly. He was there on my visit. Yeah, okay. He was there on my visit, but he left before me. Right? Yeah, we didn't play together at SLU. We played together.
Okay.
In the MLS, but I remember there used to be this site. I think it's still around, called, is it Big Soccer? You remember is it called BigSoccer.com or Big Soccer? I think, anyway, it's one of these forums back then, because there wasn't an easy way to write about things that are happening on it. Big Soccer was just a forum where people would talk about all sorts of. Yeah. Click on forum. Yeah. So in any case, though, they had these forums there where they would talk about, players. And so if you typed in Will John, you might even find some stuff honestly, it's just people talking shit. You know, like they're just. So I stumbled upon. Yeah, no, I swear to God, and it was because just speaking of the transition, I had randomly clicked on. I was in some sort of computer class then. Oh my God, with it was like
Journeyman.
The Journeyman. Yeah, they call me a Journeyman. Oh, there you go, and they throw that up there. But so that's from 2015. But this back then didn't have pictures, didn't have anything, and it was 2002.
Yeah. Wow.
And it said, this guy is so skinny, he will never be able to handle the college game.
Yeah.
He is a gimmick. Like, he is the biggest I would love to find it sometime, you know? And he's a joke. He will never be able to. He's too weak to play in college. And I remember thinking, damn, you have no idea. Oh, no, I wasn't sad. I was just like, it was my first realization of how no one has any idea what someone else is also capable of.
We've brought him up a couple times, but Steph got those same knocks.
Did he really?
Too little, too thin.
It's hilarious.
Not athletic. He couldn't dunk. I mean, he barely dunks. But
he can barely dunk, as if he cares.
Right.
You know, I can shoot from 40 anywhere. I don't have to get near anything. That was the same thing, though, for me. It was like, he's too weak, and it was like, I'm never getting into a physical battle with you. My feet are.
You're never going to be able to.
You're not going to. Yeah, that's the whole point.
So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Messi is the greatest player, you know, and this Ronaldo people freaking out. But Messi, technically speaking, is better. He's technically better.
I wonder how big he actually is.
I've played against him. He's tiny. Yeah.
How tall and how much would you guess he is?
He's like 5 foot.
Because those, I don't know if they exaggerate as much in soccer, but basketball.
5. He's small. He's small. But it doesn't matter. You're going to muscle him. Like, every once in a while, a big guy can catch on to some of these guys. Just like Maradona wasn't very tall either. It's just, you know. So anyway, transitional, like, in handling those things, it kind of brings back to the other point, though. I centered myself around what it was that I felt and believed that I could do. And then I just kept going. My parents did a very good job. Both of them went through crazy trials and tribulations to get to what they needed to do in their life. My dad being from Nigeria and coming over here, essentially with nothing, and my mom being from the south side of Chicago. And I was telling Brandon that I actually Googled her part of the city the other day, and the first thing that came up was what went wrong with, So yeah,
it's called Chirac there.
Yeah,
it's Obama administration.
It's a bad place. But essentially, knowing that things are going to go wrong and that you can handle them, essentially, if you can build up that confidence within yourself that you can handle, it allows you to go into the unknown.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most essential things. Clearly, it's essential for everyone. I think it's very essential for men, for young men now, especially. Not that it's not for women, it is. But, we have this adventure mentality, and I think all men need to think of themselves as this beacon of light heading into this darkness. And you have to know that you're the one that's going to be able, you got to take care of yourself.
Love that.
You have to keep going. So those transitions, you don't even need to worry. Just know that they're coming. They are coming. The rough patch is coming. How you handle the rough patch is gonna be on you, Yeah,
that's great. Because then it empowers you, because it circles back to the point we were talking about anxiety and stress earlier, and that it's about you being comfortable in your own skin and being able to stay present and not let the noise that we talked about earlier define who you are, how you're going to perform, because none of that stuff in the grand scheme of things controls you or who you are at any point. I love that.
Yeah, at all. No, yeah. It's just that's been a thing. I mean, I usually account a lot of it to my only child syndrome. As a matter of fact, like they put it, I started calling it only child syndrome. And then like when I was 14, they wrote about me in the paper for some game or goal at some high school, just normal stuff.
Right.
And they quoted my girlfriend at the time.
Yeah.
I can't believe they put in there. It's actually, I think it's up here somewhere. And they were like, they asked her what's he like off the field? It's like kind of a normal question. What's he like, when he's not playing a game? And she's like, he goes to movies by himself.
Oh.
And like, he does a lot of things by himself. Yeah. He's really weird. And like, it's just like, she's just like my girlfriend at the time.
I'll go to movies and eat by myself all the time, man.
All the time.
I'm still like that.
All the time. Like, you got to be able to chill and take that break and just relax with yourself. And, and I'm not on people that would find us and me on the YouTube channel might think that I'm an incredibly extroverted individual.
Yeah.
And that is, I'm okay on camera and stuff like that. But my default
switch. Yeah.
My default setting would not be, I'm trying to figure out a way to not have a smartphone right now. I don't want one. I only need it for Uber and for a few other things. I can stay, like, if I can figure out a way to not have a smartphone, I won't have one. I don't want, if I wasn't helping to do all the things we're doing with social media and running a business, I wouldn't be on Instagram.
Yeah, that was a big shift for me too, was when I had someone take over running the social media stuff for Mindsport.
Yeah.
And you really don't have, other than, like, I have a son, so posting stuff for my family to like see pictures of my son. But other than that, I'm not really on there that much.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I think it's a great one. I mean, it probably sounds antiquated in a certain sense, but there's some sort of happiness that you realize you get. Like, all the people that are into it right now that love to be on, they go the first thing in the morning, they maybe check Instagram, check Fit and all that stuff. When they take a break from it is the only time that you might realize that you don't need, that there's this other, it's so intertwined with us right now that I think,
and it feeds into not being comfortable in your own skin, because essentially you're either looking for validation from other people or you're wanting to
live
be
through other people.
Yeah. And so both of those are extremely unhealthy. But you're right. It's our society today for the most part.
So I'm not sure if they can hear this question, but devil's advocate here.
Why don't you bring it in? Why don't you come in here?
What would be the difference between someone waking up and reading the newspaper, or people reading books or reading magazines or things like that, to looking at social media? So people are, obviously it's an entertainment thing or trying to escape. What do you guys see a correlation there, a difference between those two things?
I see. So obviously, first off, Brandon is 10 years younger than me. He's doing you young guys a favor and trying to blend the worlds out. For So essentially, you're like
Speak their
kind of like
voice.
saying, what's the difference between social media and like our grandpas who were reading the newspaper first thing in the morning? Like, aren't they just escaping the? Yeah, maybe. But here's the only thing that I would say to that is that reading a book or reading a newspaper, you don't. When you read a newspaper, you read one article at a time. So if we could get a picture of a grandpa holding up a newspaper, reading this section, and then going over here, and then looking at the girl down here, and then going, that's what it would. That's not what happens, you know. He reads it. It's silent. You read and you go. So I think it's very possible, obviously, that there are some correlations between wanting to skip out or escape reality, but reading seems to be different. Obviously, I don't read in the mornings, but
I think to me the answer is, and Gary Vee talks about this a lot, and this is something I do agree with social media. Social media is generally a reflection of yourself. It's like what you allow to be in your life as far as what you follow, or, if you're caught up in a lot of the surface level or material stuff, and that's all the people you'll follow, then your existence is going to reflect that. For me, like on my personal social media account, like Instagram, whatever, I follow like philosophical, like heavy shit. So if I'm scrolling through Instagram, it's like quotes by like the Dalai Lama or Thich Nhat Hanh, or like people, who's the guy that just died? That Ram, but anyway.
Ram Dass?
Yeah. He just died a couple days ago.
Did he
But
really?
it's like accounts like that, where if I'm just scrolling, it's going to be stuff that I want and encourage to be in my life. And so I do think if you monitor the accounts you follow and you're not doing it for the surface level stuff, like the gossip or like material things or like clothes, and again, all that stuff has an
place.
existence in our life,
Right.
yeah, but it can't control you. It can't be the reason that you're on it, because I do think social media is a reflection of us. So my advice would be selective in both who you follow, what you follow, and then also how often you're on there. And so I do think there's a place where, like, if you're doing it in a healthy way and you're controlling like what you read and what you follow, then I think social media is really powerful. But if you're doing it and you're reading like circling back to the politics, religion stuff, where you're like only one-sided and the other side's wrong and you hate that side, or you're like it's very material based and you're just reading it to like hear people talk shit on other people, then that's where it becomes toxic. So I think it's a matter of who you follow and what you let into your mind and into your life.
So I actually do the same thing on Facebook, because that's the only thing. I'll answer a lot of there's a lot of business and friends on Facebook using Messenger. So I set up my Facebook actually.
We communicate that way a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly. I set it up though, so everything at the top, it's actually Bruce Lee. So I made that like the high priority. I don't remember. I did it once because I hated going in. So it's either Bruce Lee stuff and soccer clips. So if I ever do get caught scrolling, I will catch Bruce Lee clips, Bruce Lee something, and then soccer clips and goals and goals and goals. And then if it gets down to like something that I'm like, oh shit, I'm scrolling. Like I don't want to be here. Right, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. So like that's all at the top of that. And just to come back to your last thing, that's why I don't use Twitter. My only thing is that Twitter seems to be the ground for just talking shit and just getting into like, you can obviously, it's like you said, it's a reflection. And it just seems like most of the hate, I don't know if it's because it's easy and you can just type it in real quickly and just boom, you suck. Terrible game, guy. You suck. And you know,
I think you'd be hard. I think anyone would be hard to debate. Like Twitter's where you go to talk shit. Like I think it would be hard. Where people go, because you don't. I mean, Facebook's, especially in political years, it gets like that. But Twitter the most is like there's just the most trolls on Twitter.
Is that what?
I'm not on Twitter either.
I have it, but I don't tweet. Be over here. Twitter. Brandon's out there trolling.
I'll say this though. I'll go to Twitter now and I'll just search someone's name to follow them if it's like news stuff or content. I'll search it that way. Yeah. Because I do think that's, as far as breaking, and if you want to stay up to date,
it's just so easy.
Twitter's the most accessible in that regard. But it also is the most toxic to me, as far as you find people on there that are just
They're ready to
talking shit. Yeah,
They're ready to go. That's what it seems like.
Wake up and like, I just want to mess up somebody's day.
Yeah.
It's just like unfiltered, 100%. Like you're reading a magazine, it's been proofread. You know, there's professionals writing it, but Twitter, you just go there and it's just everyone
word vomit.
giving their piece, their take
on many things, though, like on everything and everything. Yeah, that's the one place that I really have just kind of. Yeah. I've stayed off. I mean, obviously I have it.
I'll give him credit though, man. Too again, third time I mentioned him, I think. But Joe Rogan had on
the Twitter guy. I think I didn't watch it. I think I know what you're talking about.
He had him on twice because it was actually intelligent. The first time he had him on, and Rogan admitted this. He said he caught him on like an off day, and he was just kind of down energy wise and all that. So he felt like he didn't really push him. For
answers
like was fair.
Yeah.
And so the next time he had on Twitter, their legal department expert, and then a guy from the extreme opposite side that had a list of like 20 things to just rail him on.
Wow. And in the end, did they come up with?
I mean, it was tense, but it was fair.
Sure.
And they did a good job of understanding because a lot of like especially what was going on with Trump and Clinton in the last election. Like a lot of that was Twitter based.
Okay.
And so, I thought the questions were hard and fair, and I thought they did a good job of answering them.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating watch.
That's a hard place to know. Yeah. To even understand where to get news. I don't even understand where I find real, things. I don't. Yeah. I'm a little worried because that's that sort of I have that apathy towards. I don't know what's real. We talked about this the other day. We were testing the studio and everything, and if the FBI or if a guy came to the house and said he in a suit and said he was the FBI and held up a search warrant, I wouldn't know if that was real or fake. I don't know what the badge looks like, and I started saying that like the EPA could come by, the FDA, or you could just make up a government agency, the SRC, and just say I need to check your house. I wouldn't really know. And it's kind of those weird things. And we're at the point now on the internet, you have to go check your source. Yeah. And you don't know even if this source is good or how. And I don't know. I don't get my news from Facebook. I don't get my news from Twitter, obviously. I'm trying to think where I guess it's Google. And then I have to go figure out if this article is real
left or right
or not.
Because, it's between CNN, MSNBC, and then Fox.
Yeah, you can just forget.
It's going to be
forget about
slanted as hell. Yeah,
just forget. Yeah, but there's not going to be a way to reverse that right now. There's no central, the center.
No,
the center news agency. We could open up the center news agency and just maybe just stick a Fox guy and a CNN guy right next to each other, and then they have to fight to
the death.
They have to fight over what's going on, But
that's funny.
Anyway, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Good? Thanks for being here, man. It's really been
awesome.
Anything you want to plug at the end, I guess?
So, as far as the mind sport world, Buddha was a baller. So we've got some exciting stuff happening. And we talked a little bit, again, off air with this. Your users are going to get a promo code. We'll be able to simply enter your name and get a discount on that. That should be out beginning of 2020. That's weird to say.
I know.
So your users will be able to get a promo code and a discount for our yearly subscription to the app.
Awesome.
We just released some new content that I'm really excited about. So we've got a 2 weeks to awaken series now within the app. So the first week's totally free, which just walks them through the basics of meditation. They're all guided. And then by the end of the second week, the goal is for the athlete to be able to do a 15-minute sit with no words, no music.
Wow. Gotcha.
Just sit and be on their own. So by the end of week 2, that's the goal of that 2 weeks to awaken series. So that's within the app. That's live now. And then, they'll have promo codes they'll be able to use.
We'll link all that stuff. So we'll link everything down below too.
Love it. And then the book, Buddha was a baller. Really, man, that's just some different ways to think about some different topics within the world of sports, and it's got some awesome images in there. We're actually going to have some
very good
some swag from the book that we're going to start to throw on some hoodies and stuff that'll again be out early year. We're hoping to have a Will John.
There we go.
Buddha version.
That's going to be awesome. No, it's a really good book.
John.
It's a good book. And no joke, guys. You got everyone out there. If anything that we've said across this entire podcast has interested you at all, check out the app, check out this book. It's awesome. It's exactly what you're looking for in trying to figure out how to solve your anxiety or how to get better, and to push yourself to the flow state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Love it.
So, all right, man. Thanks.
That's it, yeah.
Thanks for being here. Peace. People, check out goalremy.com. Check out all the rest of our stuff. Later.